What's good? Yes, I got the flower in my hair. Today's my daughter's birthday. She put the flower there, so I'm rocking it. What? It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta. I just wanted to shout out and just spread some love and some good cheer. And
Jamal Warner, dead at the age of 54 on a drowning accident while he was vacationing with his family.
Where the Cosby Show star Malcolm Jamal Warner's life suddenly and shockingly ended over the weekend. You can see right now there's a red flag blowing in the wind here. That is a warning that people should not be swimming in these.
So you're telling me that for 3 whole days, not a single outlet said a word about the fact that Malcolm Jamal Warner's daughter was right there in the water when he went under? Not TMZ, not ABC, not even Costa Rica's local press. Nothing. The story was polished, too polished. Then suddenly they slipped in one tiny bombshell. His 8-year-old daughter saw it all. If she was there, then there were screams. There were people around. Somebody had to call for help. So where's the footage? Where's the chaos? Where are the phone calls? We're supposed to believe a public beach in Costa Rica, middle of the day, had no cameras, no phones out? Come on! A literal TV legend goes down in front of people and no one captures it? That's not a missing detail. That's a cover-up. And the timing? Way too convenient. Just after he drops his rawest episode yet, blasting the industry for fake love toward black artists, he ends up face down in the ocean. They called it a freak accident. But we've seen this playbook before. Someone speaks out and suddenly they're gone. And now the silence, it's deafening. People aren't just wondering what happened. They're asking who wanted this to happen. At first, they kept it simple. Malcolm Jamal Warner drowned while swimming on vacation, but not even a day later, boom, another name drops. Or better yet, another body.
One surfer used his board to bring his daughter to shore, but volunteer lifeguards had to pull Malcolm and the other surfer from the water. On the shore, Malcolm was given
a 35-year-old unidentified man was suddenly reported to be with him in the water. Still no mention of the daughter. Still no actual witness. Just a mystery man who somehow survived the exact same current that took out a healthy 54-year-old in peak shape. Suspicious doesn't even begin to cover it. Nobody knew who this mystery man was. Not a name, not a clue.
You know, it's similar to other beaches where there are strong rip currents that are deceiving.
And nobody gave answers. But just when things started to quiet down, boom, plot twist number 3. This time, it was the real shocker. Malcolm wasn't alone. His 8-year-old daughter was right there with him in the water the whole time. And in the next clip, that's when the story cracks wide open. Suddenly, they're finally admitting she was in the water too. But here's where it gets messy. According to Costa Rica's own judicial investigation,
This is where the Cosby Show star Malcolm Jamal Warner's life suddenly and shockingly ended over the weekend. You can see right now there's a red flag blowing in the wind here. That is a warning that people should not be swimming in these waters, and you can see some choppy waves out here. A source close to Warner tells NBC News that he was here with his wife and his young daughter. They were on vacation, and then on Sunday afternoon, things went horribly wrong.
Agency, the final timeline they released clashed with both the local cops and the U.S. reports. They claimed Malcolm was playing with his daughter near the shore, then left her behind and swam out with a friend. But wait, other reports, including eyewitnesses, said she was rescued from the rip current. Those stories don't line up. Either she was safe on the sand or she was in danger. They can't both be true. Now let's talk about the beach. Playa Grande, Costa Rica. Beautiful? Yes. But it's notorious for its deadly rip currents. Multiple travel blogs have listed it as one of the most dangerous beaches on the Caribbean coast. So if the risks were so well known, why didn't any major U.S. outlets show the warning signs early on? The first pics from the scene? No English signs, just Spanish. Makes sense for locals, but how would that help an American dad with his kid? Days later, out of nowhere, TMZ drops a crystal clear image of an English red flag warning sign, but that image wasn't part of the original coverage. It almost felt planted, like someone wanted to push the idea that he ignored danger after the fact. But the Malcolm people knew he wasn't careless. He was low-key, smart, and most of all, a dedicated father. This version of the story doesn't add up, and they know it. Are we really supposed to buy that Malcolm took his daughter straight into a flag danger zone, ignored every warning, and just dove in without thinking? Or is that just the version they want us to believe? Now let's talk about the ghost in the water, that so-called 35-year-old man who survived. Reports said he and Malcolm were swimming together, caught in the same deadly rip current. Malcolm didn't make it, but this guy did. And then
about black excellence and like black love. Like when you put black in front of it, it makes it a subset of that thing. But then when I started, having this argument with him, not argument, it was discussion about the history of black soldiers, for the first time, it made me think of black excellence in a different way, right? Like because black excellence now is attributed to fame and money.
Never.
So that's been my issue.
Never for me.
With it. But now when I'm looking into the story, like black survival in and of itself is black excellence.
Because we've always had to supersede, do better, and more things have been put in our way to cross over.
Silence. No name, no face, no interviews. Not even a single blurry image. Who is he? And get this, Malcolm's wife was said to be on that trip too, but she hasn't said a word. We don't even know if this mystery man was American or local, just vanished. Now imagine if the roles were flipped. If Malcolm had survived and the other guy drowned. Would the media just shrug and move on without naming him? No way. They'd have his face plastered everywhere.
Guarantee you can find at least one reason to smile. And if for some reason you can't find a reason to smile, then that's probably the best time to be the reason for somebody else to smile. So, find a smile for yourself and be a reason for someone else to smile. That's all I got.
So why the blackout now? And here's the real kicker. 3 doctors were reportedly there on the beach when it happened. Tourists. They tried to revive Malcolm with a defibrillator. That means at least 6 adults were directly involved in the aftermath. Still, not a single video, not one phone recording. And even the doctors staying anonymous. One finally spoke.
Did you know she was black?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm like, yo, I got black dar, so we see it.
Yeah.
But instead of like, I can see where a lot of people be like, I didn't know.
The great thing is that she knew.
She
up, but only undercover, like even being present was dangerous. What kind of accident has people this scared to talk? But the strangest part, it's not just what happened that day. It's what Malcolm was doing right before. Just 2 days before he died, Malcolm dropped an episode of his podcast, Not All Hood. At first, it came off like a deep personal reflection on black identity. But now, fans are seeing it differently, like a goodbye, or maybe a warning. The episode started calm, but quickly turned bold. Malcolm called out the media for twisting black stories, and now his own story is being erased in real time. He talked about how the hood always gets blamed for everything, and how just surviving should be the real measure of success. That hit different, especially now. Let's be real. Malcolm's podcast wasn't blowing up the charts. No Spotify deal, no big promo machine behind it. But it had something way more dangerous. Truth. His show was raw, real.
Cannot describe the pain and sadness and surprise that I feel with the recent loss of MJW. He was the big brother. He was a beacon. He was one of the most multifaceted, talented men. So gentle. And my heart and soul and hugs and kisses go out to his daughter.
And it was gaining traction. Malcolm wasn't just talking anymore, he was teaching. And what did the industry do? Stayed silent. No love, no shout outs, no collaborations, no press, because he didn't fit the safe image. He was bringing up the kind of uncomfortable truths that Hollywood loves to keep buried. And the last video he posted, it wasn't praise, it was a reveal. He was calling out a certain someone, not for who she pretended to be, but for knowing the game and choosing to play it anyway. Malcolm was telling us something bigger. Hollywood only pushes black stories that are polished and palatable. Stories that make folks feel comfortable. And Markle, for all her beauty and elegance, she became the face of safe, the poster child for getting close to whiteness. Meanwhile, Malcolm, he wasn't getting booked for fairy tales. Let's talk about that. This man walked away from fame at its peak. He was Theo Huxtable, one of the most iconic TV roles of the 80s and 90s. He could have cashed in forever, but he dipped. Why? Because the scripts were trash. Same old roles, broken men, druggies, criminals, sidekicks. Malcolm said no. Instead, he built something of his own. He produced films about mass incarceration, police violence, and deportation. He started a podcast from scratch and used it to speak up when nobody else would. Malcolm wasn't just an actor, he was a thinker. He studied spirituality, fatherhood, manhood. He dropped spoken word albums. He even won a Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance, something most folks don't even know. That's why his death hits different. But here's the thing. The same people who barely acknowledged him in life suddenly front row at his funeral. Bill Cosby's camp said it reminded him of losing his own son. Raven Simone broke down crying on IG Live. Words can't describe the pain. But all of them, too late. And let's not pretend this is new. Malcolm wasn't the first. And heartbreakingly, he won't be the last. Because there's a pattern here, a disturbing one. Ever notice how the truth tellers never seem to grow old? Chadwick Boseman was quietly calling out Hollywood for its whitewashing, pushing back on toxic black stereotypes, while donating millions to cancer research in silence, all while fighting stage 4 colon cancer. Then, right as Da 5 Bloods and Ma Rainey were reshaping black stories on screen, gone. Nipsey Hussle built up his hood, bought properties, preached ownership, and publicly called out the LAPD's harassment of black businesses. And just like that, gunned down in broad daylight. Michael K. Williams was one of the realest to ever do it, raw, vulnerable, and unfiltered. He opened up about trauma, exposed abuse in the industry, and even talked about spiritual manipulation in elite circles. They all had one thing in common. They weren't playing the game. They were exposing it. Michael K. Williams, gone from a fentanyl-laced overdose in New York City, no less. And the network he'd been building with? Quiet. Then there was Prince, one of the boldest truth tellers we've ever seen. He went head-to-head with the music industry, exposed label slavery, told black artists to own their masters. And just like that, he was found lifeless in an elevator. Now, Malcolm Jamal Warner's name gets added to that same list. Meanwhile, celebs who've stirred up drama, been tangled in scandals, or built entire brands on chaos. They get Netflix specials, magazine covers, full-blown redemption arcs. But a man who gave 4 decades to this industry, barely a whisper. They say he drowned. They say it was just a rip current. They say his daughter's screams were never filmed, that the signs were there, that the witnesses were real, that the silence meant nothing. But let's be honest, good men don't just vanish. Not like this. And now, his daughter wants to speak. She was there. She saw it all. The only question is, will they let her talk? Because once she opens her mouth, everything shifts. Next time, we're breaking down the final 48 hours, the missing messages, Hollywood's eerie silence, and the last people to see Malcolm alive. Make sure to like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.